Arsenal pressed Liverpool and had to adjust in a different way. Talk us through it, because you want to show us what the press would normally look like first.
Well, no, I thought this is the way we pressed at the start, if you run it through.
Right, yeah.
We like to press man-to-man.
Yeah.
And so you're now putting the players up high into their positions. This will be a man-to-man press, how Arsenal would press if Liverpool were in their normal 4-3-3 shape. And you see Saka would be on Robinson, Jesus would be between two centre-halves, and Martinelli would push on to Trent Alexander. Then you go man-to-man in midfield, and then you've got like Holding, Gabriel taking care of Gakpo, with White taking care of Jota, and Zinchenko taking care of Salah. So that's how it started, the game started. But Liverpool immediately changed in the game, which was picked up on Sky Sports. I don't take no credit for that. I did hear him say that, and then I started looking at it. There was a clear movement by Liverpool to move Trent Alexander-Arnold infield, which you're now going to show. And that Arsenal immediately adjusted to this straight away. I think the key, what they were looking for, they were looking to drag Martinelli in field. So if Trent came in here in a 3-2 build-up, and that would create space. Konate would come out now onto the right-hand side, Robinson and Van Dijk, the other two defenders in the 3. And I think the tactic then was to drag Martinelli inside. Konate would look to play the ball down the line to Salah. And that was, I think, the space they were trying to create in build-up. And also probably try and get Trent on the ball in like the pivot, although that's not his strength, of course. But Arsenal immediately adjusted to that in 3 ways. I thought what we saw was Martinelli stayed out wide where they wanted him to come infield. He stayed out wide, now marking Konate. And I think Xhaka then pushed from Henderson onto Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
And of course, we're going to talk about that flare-up between the two in the first half, which some say changed the way the game was going. Zinchenko now moved from Salah up against Henderson, and Gabriel was now pushed across to mark Salah. So I think Arsenal adjusted to what Liverpool did when Trent went into midfield in that 3-2-5 shape. And I think Gabriel...
I thought it was a great battle.
It was a great battle. And I think Gabriel was absolutely immense in this game. He won his interceptions, his blocks, his tackles. He stopped Salah. Salah, for me, is, if you move him forward there, James, he's more dangerous here, moving into here, when he's running into this sort of space. And this is what it became second half. But when he's got to come deep, I think Arsenal knew that if he's playing here and Gabriel gets tight to him, he's not so good receiving the ball, he's back to goal and turning. I think that's he's better with the ball in front of him. So I thought Gabriel took...
Well, he can be brilliant. He can be, but Gabriel's a good match for him.
Yeah, he is. And he's brilliant. He won all their duels, didn't he? I've noticed every time the ball went to Salah, Gabriel was straight in with a tackle or a block, getting the ball off him. So that movement to try and get Konate a ball up to Salah wasn't really working for them. Zinchenko pushed on to Henderson. Henderson wasn't really getting up to support the attack.
And sometimes tried to come wide to fill that space. So that's Salah.
And I think second half it changed when Henderson got up high and he started moving even beyond Salah. And then of course Xhaka moved on to Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold in a pivot, some could say, he's a great crosser of a ball. Get him up here, and as we saw, he nutmegged Zinchenko for the equaliser when he put the cross in. But he's not so good in here. He's not somebody who can play in a pivot like Partey can, build the play. But he moved in here, and I thought that was... Arsenal got control. When it was a football game, James, when it was a football game, two teams playing in a 3-2-5 shape, I thought we outplayed them, and we scored 2 great goals. And this is the way I think we man-marked them. It was a man-marking system that adjusted to the way Liverpool tried to adjust in the game.
I think there's positives and negatives for a man-marking system. That's one of the things we really want to highlight here, because let's start with the positives. The Jesus goal. Now, I've recreated it here. You've got Xhaka, bless him, just about in screen. Now, what I thought was really interesting about this is Trent was clearly adapting to this. I'm inside when we don't have the ball. So when we have the ball, but I have to retreat to my right back position. But they're also trying to press as well, Liverpool. I think they had a little bit of an identity crisis in that first 40 minutes, Liverpool, in terms of, well, what are we trying to do a little bit here? And Arsenal exploited that really well, because I said in the preview, play your football, Arsenal. Play out the press, because Liverpool haven't pressed this season as well as they have done in previous years, and the numbers showed it. But with Xhaka here, when he plays this ball into Martinelli, it causes havoc across the back line, because when you look at it here, they have, what do they call it, numerical advantage or whatever. I mean, Odegaard's somewhere here, but he doesn't really do anything too much in this attack. Really got Martinelli running, you've got your back four, Jesus and Van Dijk's got an eye on him, and Robertson, but Robertson is thrown off by the fact that Saka is behind him. Saka doesn't really play much of a part in the goal, but the fact that he's there, you know, causes a bit of trouble. But it's the position of Trent Alexander-Arnold, the fact that Arsenal wanted to exploit this with Martinelli being so high and wide, because he's slightly ahead of him and he's definitely wider, and that puts a lot of pressure on Konate. So when this ball is played over the top here, it's Konate, as you can see, who has to come across. Oh, I've actually touched that, but there you go. And then by that point, Trent's trying to get back, but you've got two players to try and stop one. It's very similar actually to the goal we scored at the Emirates, when sort of, I think it was Gomez, or was it Gomez or Trent? I can't remember, gets pulled across by Martinelli.
No, it's Trent. You're talking about the opening goal?
No, the goal at the Emirates when we went 2-1 up before half time.
Oh, right,
do you remember?
Oh, yeah,
when he cut inside, and I think Trent runs past, and maybe Henderson as well is not great in that. But this time, obviously, he goes for high ball. But what you've got here is the ball has to be perfect from Martinelli, because Van Dijk's better in the air than Jesus. Fantastic in the air, great hold-up play, showed it all day. Van Dijk's better in the air. So the ball has to be perfect, and he hits that spot where Alisson can't really come and claim it. Van Dijk is too far behind him, but Robertson can't really attack it either because he's got an eye on Saka behind him, and Martinelli gets it spot on. I feel sorry for Martinelli and that pass at the end of the game that people are saying he should have got right, and he should have, because I thought he was sublime. And we're going to talk about what he did really well in a little bit. But it was really good from Arsenal to take advantage of that situation.
Yeah, I thought the ball from Granit Xhaka for Martinelli, if you play it back, that was absolutely sublime, James. And I think he gets a lot
chip pass here.
Yeah, chip pass over the top. Now, Trent got a lot of stick if you stop it there. Trent was inverted, and a bit like we're going to show with the Ben White thing on the goal that we concede. Trent is now inverted. He has to get across. He took a lot of criticism from the media on Sky Sports and other punditry that I saw, but he was in here, and to get out there, he was. When you're playing in here, it's not always easy to get out wide. People are saying all the goals are coming down his side, but he was playing inverted in this game. So when the ball goes out, it's a brilliant build-up by Arsenal, exposing that space on the left-hand side, drawing Konate across. And then Martinelli, I think, is a brilliant cross, but I question the defending, to be honest. I look at it sometimes from a defensive point of view.
Poor from a
I think
defensive point of
Van
view.
Dijk doesn't get it right when the ball comes across. It's a brilliant cross and a brilliant header. But I question, they had a 2v1 there. Could they have done better? I think Van Dijk doesn't get across and doesn't get his position right, and enables Gabriel Jesus. It's a brilliant header, but right on his head, puts it away superbly. So, great ball from Xhaka, great cross from Martinelli. I think Liverpool could have defended it better. That's my view on it.
So this is for me where we benefit from the shape. We're going to talk about the Xhaka incident in a little bit, but I actually want to talk about the first Liverpool goal first, and we've recreated that. Let's find it here, because it just feeds into that whole discussion around shape. Now, again, talked about where we benefited from the shape. This is where I think we don't. And what I've got here is Robertson wins the header. And you said to me as we were recreating this, you said, watch White, because you're right, it gets completely pulled out of position. Now, one thing's really interesting about this is Arsenal have gotten into a shape, but because they're man marking and because they're following their particular runners all over the place, when one thing goes wrong, the whole thing becomes a little bit of a free-for-all. You're trusting the players and their instinct to be able to deal with situations. It's not about structure and coaching. It's about, hey, you lot on the pitch, can you get us through this moment? And Robertson wins the header to Jota, but when he spins around White and finds Gakpo, that's when the whole thing starts to come apart. Saka's watching Robertson. Really, Jones was marked by Partey, but Jones is quite wide, so Partey doesn't want to go into that space. Therefore, Holding doesn't really come on to Gakpo because he knows that Partey's kind of in front, and then White follows Jota, and there you go. Where's Zinchenko in that inverted role? Because clearly we'd had the possession of the ball, I think,
ends up back
a little
at
bit
centre back,
before.
doesn't he?
He does at the end of all this.
Yeah.
So the ball comes into Jota, he spins White. I think that's a little too easy from White and Partey to let him get that ball through, but he does. It's good from them. They've got very good players. They're going to do good things. At this point, Jones has pulled wide, and Holding's having to keep an eye on that. Zinchenko slotting into centre-back, and Xhaka, who was watching Henderson, is thinking, that's a back three. I want to make it a four.
Yeah.
So he starts, sprinting back. Jones gets the ball, running forward. And then at this bit here, as he's coming in and Jota's about to make the overlap, it's an overlap, not an underlap. Your back five is made up of Holding at right back.
Yeah.
Partey, Xhaka's about to Xhaka and White are trying to sort of watch Henderson while Gakpo's on the edge. Zinchenko is the most central of the defenders, and Gabriel's still got an outsider. Gabriel's actually the only one who's doing his job from at the start of the move. And then he cuts inside Jones, rolls it back, and Henderson's just got a little bit too much space. Well, far too much space in the area. But it's a product of the man marking getting pulled apart.
Yeah, of course. And I think you recreated that goal brilliantly. I think the 2 points I make on that, they create the 2v1 by the fact that Ben White is out of position. Again, because he's inverted. That's what he offers you going forward. You saw in our first goal with the movement that he from Saka off Robertson, but it was Ben White's pass that sort of like got Saka moving. But here he's caught out of position. They create the 2v1. They get the cross across. Everybody's backpedaling, as you quite rightly say. People are trying to. The best way of dealing with teams that man mark, whether it be Arsenal or the opponents, is to move people around, get them out of their shape, and move them away from their markers. And that's what they did with this goal, James, principally by moving Ben White, creating the 2v1 overload. As the ball comes across, I think they get a little bit lucky, because as he puts it across, Henderson, I think, is shooting for goal, and it deflects off his foot over to the back stick. Gabriel, who can't react quick enough, but it falls nicely for Salah, and they put it back to 2-1.